and welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. This week we're going to be doing our top 10 quarterbacks. This will be our final top 10 quarterbacks. This is our final rankings for all the top 10 quarterbacks. We have a total of 15 to talk about tonight that were ranked in our top 10s between the four of us, between me, Zach with Ocean State, and Jeff and Will from Media. So you guys definitely going to want to make sure you stay tuned for that. But first, we have a couple of news stories to break down. Mekhi Becton is unfortunately out for the season. He had some knee injuries in practice. They just progressively got worse and ended up with Salah pretty much saying that he's going to miss the entire season. They are looking at other directions to bring in another tackle, possibly Dwayne Brown, to pair with George Fant there on the outside. Another big news story is Roquan Smith, one of the best middle linebackers in the league, has requested a trade. This comes after he says that the Bears have failed to have reasonable contract extension talks with him. He's saying that their offers they're making him are not acceptable. They're not within the range, and he says it wouldn't be a good thing for the rest of the linebackers in the league if he accepted these offers. So we'll see what kind of market he has. He is one of the best linebackers in the league, so if a team has the cap space to pay him, I would expect there to be a lot in return for Roquan Smith. And finally, the most fantasy relevant news story of the week is Kareem Hunt has requested a trade, and even though the Browns have denied him, this is still a situation to monitor. Kareem Hunt is very capable of being a starting running back in the league. So whether or not the Browns can get a deal done with Kareem Hunt doesn't necessarily want to leave Cleveland. He's just upset that contract extension talks haven't gone anywhere. He's going to be a free agent after this season. So his hope is to get a new contract in Cleveland or somewhere else. He wants to have that long-term deal. What do you guys think? You guys think the Browns would be better off to give him that extension, have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt for the next few years? Or should they try and trade him and just ride Nick Chubb? And Dearness Johnson, let us know using the Media app. The Media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host a virtual press conference from your own phone. A new version of the app is going to be releasing soon, so you guys can get your hands on it. I've already been playing around with it. So is Zach, Jeff, and Will, and it's great. You guys will definitely want to make sure you guys pay attention for that, and you can check it out on the Google Play and the App Store. All right, now let's welcome in our guests. Will and Zach are here. Welcome in, guys.
Yo, yo.
Yo, how you doing, Zach?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Shoot, football tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're in
Let's
that
go.
time.
Let's go.
Real excited. A couple games I'm paying attention for this week is a Browns-Jaguars game. Want to see how Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence end up playing. See what Travis Etienne can do coming back from that injury. And then the Panthers, obviously, we got to watch Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold duke it out on the field. See which one comes out first, who plays with the first-team offense, and do they leave the first-team offense on the field for both of them? I wouldn't be surprised if they do. They could just alternate drives to start the game. We will see. But let's get into our rankings. Jeff's going to be joining us soon, hopefully. We'll see when he joins, but until then, we can just, speak for Jeff. If we don't like his picks, we'll make sure we tell you why we don't like his picks, and he won't be here to rebuttal. So let's get right into it. With a consensus ranking of 1.5, Josh Allen is our number one quarterback. Will and I have him at 1. Zach and Jeff have him at 2. To me, I think Josh Allen, what really sets him apart from some of the other guys, the guy who I had ranked 1 in the previous show, is the rushing ability. But with everything that the Bills have been doing, I think they've been adding some serious weapons alongside Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis should emerge, and I project he's going to have a great season. You bring in a pass-catching back at James Cook. You already have 2 good pass-catching tight ends in Dawson Knox and O.J. Howard. I think there's just so many weapons in this offense that have the ability to put up points and make those moves after the catch. And when you add in that rushing upside of Josh Allen, with the fact he could rush for, some Cam Newton-esque numbers when it gets down to that goal line, To me, that's really what sets him apart. Will, you also have him at 1, and we know how much you love James Cook. Does that factor into this at all?
Well, I mean, if we believe what's coming out of camp and they're using James Cook as a third down back in the passing situations, yeah, there's just a lot of firepower on that team. And I think that's why I got him at number 1 on my list is I just think Buffalo, like they're ready to peak as a team and they're going to put numbers up. And I think for fantasy, he's going to get you 3-4 touchdowns a week, whether it's passing, running, whatever it may be, and just all that talent around him. There's no reason for them to falter.
For sure. Zach, what do you think about Josh Allen? You have him at 2. Why you got him there?
Going to play the game where the quarterback 1 never finishes as or quarterback 1 kind of thing. Well, he wasn't quarterback 1 last year, or was Josh Allen QB1?
So,
he was,
QB1.
QB1.
Josh Allen was QB1 in 2020.
Yep.
And in 2021. So he's already gone back to back. He's about to make it 3.
I'm betting that he doesn't. So that's my only argument, because like what argument can I really make against a guy that is so prolific for fantasy, just because, not only does his, arm talent match the rushing ability, but it's a super advantage when he's in your starting lineup. And he's always, probably the 101 in super flex leagues, at least the ones I've been doing. I did have the 101 in a super flex last week, and I did take Justin Herbert. So I'm not just throwing this out there. I really do believe Justin Herbert is QB1, but maybe we'll get to that.
We will get to that
shortly
right now.
But obviously he's, Josh Allen's not mine, but you have to love the outlook. I don't love it from a Dolphins perspective. But for fantasy, yeah, there's going to be a ton of points scored on that team for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's just too many points, and really the fact that he could have double-digit rushing touchdowns is what gives him that edge over Justin Herbert for me. But Justin Herbert comes in at 2 for us in our consensus ranking. Zach, you have him at 1. Will and I have him at 2, and this Jeff guy has him all the way down at 4. So good thing Jeff's not here. But Zach, you have him the highest, so I'll let you start off. Why do you think Justin Herbert will finish as the QB1 this year?
Just going to go with the natural progression of his career so far. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but he's
9 and then 2.
Right. So there you go. And 9 is his rookie.
Yeah.
Was the rookie season where he came in, at the last second was told he's going to be starting, after the whole eye incident. So kind of, you got to like what the ceiling, I don't know if he's really has shown it yet. And that pass to Jalen Guyton last year, where he's getting hit and just throws an absolute, like, I've never seen a pass like that before. And I'm going to take the gamble on a guy that has that ability with a wide receiver core made up of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and sneaky Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler in the backfield with a new, the offensive line just gets better each year. They keep hitting on these rookies that they keep drafting with Slater, and I forgot who it was last year, but they added even more talent. And then just the age thing. I think Josh Allen, you might see at some point his rushing touchdowns have to come back down to earth. And I think if you take that into consideration, and maybe he rushes for 3 touchdowns this year, I think Justin Herbert easily surpasses him just with the passing volume.
Yeah, so last season, Justin Herbert had 5,000 yards through the air, 38 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. And the area I think he can really improve upon is the fact that he had 15 interceptions last year. So if he can start to cut down on that numbers, get down to around his 10 in his rookie season, I think he could possibly even do better than that. I think that'll help his fantasy output because he won't have those negatives working against him. But as you said, he's got a great offensive line. Definitely a better offensive line than what Josh Allen has. I just don't see him, going for that 5+ touchdowns on the season, especially, he's their franchise guy. He doesn't look like he wants to go out there and take those hits, not kind of built like Josh Allen is. But yeah, if he cuts down on the interceptions, if he keeps up, around 5,000 yards, that's going to be a big, big difference there. Will, you have him at 2 as well.
Yeah, and I just want to add to it before Will hopped into it, just like I love a coach that's going to go for it on fourth down every drive. So maybe that attributes to his interception totals, the fact that they go for it on fourth down all the time. So more chance for fantasy points. But go ahead, Will. Sorry, didn't mean to jump in.
No, I had a hard debate. I wanted to put him number one. My concern is the wide receiver core and the injuries. And, their depth is okay, but it still hurts. Then, honestly, then you start thinking, you look at the rest of that division, those are going to be high-scoring games. There's not one inter-division game that they play that's not going to be like 31-28. There's just, that's probably the most quarterback-stacked division in the NFL. And wide receivers are stacked too. So it's going to be shootouts. I'm just worried about Keenan Allen and Mike Williams being able to be there for him all season, and that's the only reason I bumped him down a little bit.
Yeah, I think that Josh Allen just has that better depth at those, skill positions as opposed to Justin Herbert right now. So that is another difference there. But we are going to stay in the division here. As you Will said, this is one of the most stacked quarterback divisions. We have 3 quarterbacks from this division in our consensus top 5. So you guys are going to pay attention and see, will it be Derek Carr or Russell Wilson in the top 5? You'll have to see. But Patrick Mahomes is our next guy. Finished as the QB4 the past 2 seasons. We have him at 3. Jeff has him at 1. Good thing Jeff's not here. Zach and I both have him at 3, and Will has him at 4. He lost Tyreek Hill, but they brought in a bunch of, good wide receiver talent, if that's what you want to call Juju, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Josh Gordon, and that plethora of wide receivers. They really lack that top-end wide receiver talent that the other teams in this division have. Devontae Adams, none of those guys are even anywhere near close to that type of level. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are both all better than this wide receiver core, but he does have Travis Kelce. And he's got some, another good plethora of running backs coming out of the backfield. Clyde, Rojo, who cannot catch to save his life. But they brought back Jerick McKinnon as well. So there's definitely going to be some room for him to improve spreading the ball around, I think, this year. And I hope that he does improve on his spreading the ball around because he can't just look to Tyreek Hill. This is a perfect time for Jeff to join since we're talking about Patrick Mahomes. Jeff, why is Patrick Mahomes your number 1 overall quarterback?
Uh-oh.
Jeff didn't even want the smoke.
There we go.
To appear magically. Because until the Buffalo Bills end up beating the Chiefs, he is still ranked, for me, above my man Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen, but there's just something about Mahomes. And this year, I think he's going to actually going to probably do better than he has over the last 3 years. Even with new receivers, I think they're going to do a lot of different things that we haven't seen. He's got more targets now than I think he's ever had. Even with the loss of Tyreek Hill, now I think he has more guys that he can actually dump the ball off to that can extend plays. Remember during the playoff game, I think it was the same type of Tyreek Hill play that he did with McCole Hardman. From what I've been seeing in camp, the way he's hooked up with Sky Moore, I think now he's got an additional guy going across the middle with Juju Smith-Schuster. I just think he's got a lot of gadgets to play with this time. So as long as the line gives him a little bit of time, I think, man, he's gonna do better than a lot of people are giving him, than what a lot of people are thinking. So until he's knocked off, I'm keeping him at number 1.
Well, Josh Allen has finished as the QB1 the past 2 seasons, so if that doesn't knock him off the pedestal, I'm not really sure what can when it comes to fantasy football. But to me, as I was saying, he's got to learn to spread the ball around. Last season, he set a career high in interceptions with 13. He's got to bring that number down. Tyreek Hill isn't there to force the ball to, but if he gets locked in on Travis Kelce, we could see that number even go higher. with safeties reading his eyes. And if he doesn't get that connection he had with Tyreek Hill, where he's scrambling around and Tyreek Hill knows exactly where to be, if he doesn't develop that with Juju, MVS, or Sky Moore, he might have that with Mecole Hardman, but Mecole Hardman, he's had his shot. He's been the wide receiver 2 on this team for so long and has done nothing. So to me, I'm not expecting that breakout to happen. And I think he really just depended so much on Tyreek Hill's ability to get open in those scramble plays. And if you give Tyreek Hill the ball, he's going to make everyone miss. And there's a chance every time he has the ball, he's going to the house. So that's why I have him at 3. I still think, with all that said, he's still Patrick Mahomes on the Chiefs offense. And, 3, because we have Herbert, unlike you. Herbert, it was our consensus number 2. You decided to put him all the way down at 4. But, Zach, you also have him at 3. Anything you'd like to add to this discussion here?
The thing with Patrick Mahomes, it's not him, it's us. It's his draft, it's his ADP that it always seems to really not work. I've been heavy on Patrick Mahomes since he's entered the league, where I feel like every one of my teams, I've always been that guy that's been like, this is the quarterback to take earlier in the drafts, just because of his absolute crazy ability to, whether it's a no-look pass or whatever it may be. And he's rushed for 2 rushing touchdowns every single season since he's been a starter. What year was Tyreek Hill suspended, or did he miss a certain amount of games?
I think he missed a couple games.
Was that 2018? If it was 2018, Patrick Mahomes finished as the QB1 that year. So I guess that's the closest thing we can see to what he looks like without Tyreek Hill.
No, I guess not. He wasn't suspended.
He never got suspended.
I don't think
he did miss some games though.
I thought
he's missed some games to injuries, but he wasn't suspended due to his child abuse claim.
But either way, QB4 the last 2 seasons, QB7 before that, and QB1. So I think 3 is a perfect landing spot if you're just talking average of those numbers, I guess.
Yeah, he's got to prove, that he can get those other guys the ball in space. And, Juju's got to prove to me that he can be, a number 1 target again. MVS has to prove to me that he can catch the ball. So not really putting too much faith.
Well, no, he finally has a good quarterback. So that's
that Aaron Rodgers guy throwing him the ball in wide open field. That guy was terrible.
I didn't
MVS, there was a bad ball. MVS was, first only guy within 20 yards and hits him right in the hand.
I would say though, to the questionable receiving core, I think Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys that could probably make one of us look good on the field, to be totally honest, because just the his hand-eye coordination and his just awareness. These are still NFL wide receivers. If a perfectly thrown ball is sent, it's like
except for
they're going to
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he can't catch those wide open balls. I've seen him drop so many balls for Green Bay. He would make some great catches and just whiff on the easiest catches. Will, I'm sure you saw that. Being a Vikings fan, you have him at 4. Will, you're the lowest out of everyone on him.
Yeah. I really like him. I'd like to put him higher, but there's a pattern with Andy Reid's teams. They make it to the Super Bowl, and every year after that, they decline. And when I look at his numbers last year, he was almost 100 yards more in total yard passing. His attempts were 658 attempts last year. The year before that was 588. His completions were 436. He still has 66% completion rate, but his interceptions went from 6 to 13. My problem with Andy Reid built teams, and I don't know if Mahomes can really keep improving or be consistent with Andy still there, is this is what they do. He gets them to the Super Bowl like the Eagles, and then they fall off. And his offense gets figured out. And that's what's happening. That's a big jump from 6 to 13. His touchdowns went down by 1, went from 38 to 37, and his interceptions went up by 7. They're asking him to do too much. It's almost like Andy Reid is playing Madden, and he just has Mahomes running around throwing the ball. And if they do that this year without the proven wide receiver and no running back still, it makes me nervous. I think on pure value, he still's top 10, but he's not where he should be. and his statistics are starting to show it, and it's nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with Andy Reid, and it just concerns me. So that's why I got him down at 4.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, that whole running back situation, they really don't have that number one running back. It would be, amazing if there was this number one running back that's currently a backup in Cleveland that was on this Kansas City Chiefs team, like Kareem Hunt. That guy would be pretty good in Kansas City, as far as I'm concerned. It's almost like he would be a number one running back, and he would be on one of the best offenses in the league, only if they had a guy like that. But
I'm telling you guys, keep an eye on Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie. This kid,
you can't just keep hyping this guy up, because everyone's hyping this guy up right now. Everywhere I see,
nobody was hyping up Kareem Hunt either. And look at what he did. That's one thing Andy Reid knows is a good running back. I don't know what the hell happened with Clyde,
but he's getting the hype now.
But
every reporter is talking
Andy
about
Reid can pick a damn good running back. So
and they've been lining him up in the slot. He's all over all my feeds. All I see is, draft this guy at the end of your draft. Draft this guy at the end of your draft. I'm like, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Look, nobody thought about Spencer Ware back in the day either. I'm one of those guys. I will stick with Andy Reid and the running back. I don't know about Edwards-Helaire, but I'm watching these other guys. Maybe he's not good at picking somebody in the first round. Maybe
too much.
Pick somebody second or third, and they'll end up showing up and being halfway.
Too much mediocre talent in that backfield. That's the way. Too much mediocre NFL talent. Like, obviously, they're still great running backs in comparison to the regular guy, but that's how I feel about their wide receiver core too. They just have too many mid-level NFL guys. It's like, none of these guys really scares me. But let's move on to a guy whose wide receivers really aren't the reason. He's in our top 5. Lamar Jackson comes in at 4 with an average ranking of 5. Jeff has him at 3. Zach has him at 5. Will has him at 6. No, wait, hold on. Zach at 4, Will at 5, and I have him all the way down at 8. So, Jeff, you have him at 3. I'll let you start it off. We'll go in order of how we have him ranked. So, Zach, and then Will and I will go last. Talk about why I'm a little lower on him. But, Jeff, why you have him as your quarterback 3?
1, his legs. We all know that. But I honestly think he did a lot of work on his accuracy this year. I don't know how Rashad Bateman is going to be a decent wide receiver. The core is a little sketchy. But you want to talk about some guys dropping balls. Marquise Brown wasn't that great. Hollywood Brown wasn't that great catching balls either. So you got Andrew still there. Rashad Bateman, I want to see what he can do. I actually like Duvernay as well. They've got a couple of quiet guys that might come in and might surprise some people. So I see you guys smiling and snickering.
They might get 3 targets and 1 catch a game. Woohoo! That's what we like to see.
But I think they'll hold on to the ball. Instead of him, I mean, look in the past. All he's had was really Hollywood Brown and Andrews. So,
But Hollywood Brown through 9 weeks last week was the wide receiver 5. And that was accounting for the bye week. Even though you say he couldn't catch, he was putting up numbers. Because he is a talented wide receiver.
He's no MVS.
No.
He's no MVS.
No, Marquise Brown was a talented wide receiver, and I like Lamar Jackson a whole lot better with a guy that's proven at the wide receiver core.
I just think he's going to be more accurate this year, and I think he's going to hit more targets. And then, of course, you still got to watch out for his legs. So I think he's healthy. I think he's got a point to really prove this year. That's another thing that's big on my list, guys that have a point to prove. He seems like one of those guys that when he has a point to prove, he's going to make it, and I think he's going to make it this year.
Zach, what are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson?
I think that going into this season, Lamar Jackson he's kind of found himself in a better setup, I think, even than the prior years. Just for the simple fact if J.K. Dobbins can actually play the season, when your entire running back core is depleted and you're paying Le'Veon Bell in Bitcoin to come play running back for a week, or whether it's who is the other guy from the Falcons back in the day, Devonta Freeman.
Yep.
Then they had him playing running back last year. I was subbing in a couple of plays. So when you have a running back who's actually able to create nightmares for the opposing defense coordinator, like now they have to account for more runners than just Lamar. And if everyone thinks Mark Andrews is 1A, 1B, someone has to be throwing him the ball. And yes, you can make the argument about a lot of the production from last year came when the backups were in, but even still, Lamar Jackson has proven things that no other quarterback, as far as upside. If we're going to take the Christian McCaffrey take on this, Lamar Jackson should be one, right? Because he's just proven that he has the most explosive ability. He tied or broke the record for most 100 100-yard rushing games. Mike Vick had that prior. So if you're talking statistically, Lamar Jackson's a fantasy cheat code. So he could be one, but I don't know, 5. Is that where we have him?
4.
4. I'm cool with 4.
That's exactly where you have him ranked, so I hope you are cool with 4.
Yeah.
Will, what do you want to add to the Lamar Jackson conversation before I get in here?
The wide receiver core makes me nervous. If you told me like to rank them on just best quarterback overall as an individual, he's probably top 3. I just have a hard time with that wide receiver core right now and just figuring out what the heck their offense is going to look like. And so, but I do think this is the break line in the top 10. I think Lamar, to me, is 5. After that, it's a bunch of older guys who are in twilight of their career and, and a couple other guys. But, like, he's definitely the top 5 quarterback fantasy this year. Would I be shocked if he went higher? Point wise, no. But it just until I see those wide receivers play, it's hard for me to say this is the guy when I'm looking at Burrow, Herbert, Allen, that would have a really established talent around them.
Yeah, for me, now that I get a chance to get in there. So last season he was hurt for a few games, ended up only playing 12 games, which was a career low. He's only ever played 16 games in a season once, and that was his rookie year when he didn't start. Majority of those games he was just in there for a play or two, getting a couple of rushing yards. He had career low in rushing attempts, rushing yards. Other than his first season where he's only doing some trick plays, he had a career low in yards per carry. Only had 2 rushing touchdowns last season, which you said it could go up this year depending on how the offense is. But you would think last year when they didn't have the running backs, he would get those opportunities at the goal line a little more. We'll see what they do this year with Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins coming back. Maybe that opens up a couple more lanes for him in the red zone. Hopefully it does for his fantasy value, get him up to that 7 range where he was the previous 2 years. But as Will said, the real big scary thing for me is outside of Mark Andrews, he has no proven wide receivers around him. Bateman, I like Bateman. I think he could be a good, wide receiver 2. But I don't think he's going to get that consistency. When you have a quarterback that's only thrown for over 3,000 yards once, and that was in his QB1 year when he had that insane 36 touchdowns on 3,100 yards. Like, that doesn't happen often. So that's really realistically not something I could see happening again. And in that season, he only threw 6 interceptions, where the previous 2 seasons he threw 9 and 13. So for me, I can't see those passing touchdown numbers getting back up to that 36 with the current core he has. Because sure, Mark Andrews might get into the double-digit touchdowns, but I really don't see any of these other wide receivers demanding that, red zone, give me the ball type thing that Mark Andrews is going to do. And if he can't bring those rushing yards back up, bring the yards per carry back up and get those touchdowns, I think he's a top 10 guy for sure. And he's definitely, if he can stay healthy for the entire season, but to me, I can't project him to stay healthy for the entire season. Everything we know about rushing quarterbacks is once the injuries start, they do not stop. They just keep coming and coming and coming. So that's kind of what, with Josh Allen, if he doesn't stop running, if he starts getting injuries and starts missing a serious amount of time, that's when you start to pump the brakes on Josh Allen. We saw that with, all the great rushing quarterbacks. Once they start to get hurt, they kind of start to lose that. And Lamar Jackson has built his entire brand on his rushing ability. So without that, he has, a below average accuracy when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. Could he improve his accuracy? For sure. His accuracy has been getting better throughout his career, but is it going to be enough to make him, have 3,500 passing yards with this wide receiver core? I can't see it happening.
They'll
all that
finish
being said,
last in the division.
What?
Yeah.
They'll finish last in the division if he doesn't just be baseline Lamar Jackson, because
Right.
you guys are 1,000% correct. The wide receiver core is rough unless you're a Rashad Bateman truther. But
Even at that, if
yeah.
you have one wide receiver, that's not good enough for anyone other than Aaron Rodgers.
Right, and if you have a meltdown with the rushing with Lamar Jackson, you better hope J.K. Dobbins put the teams on his back, or it's going to be a rough season for Baltimore.
Yeah, but let's move on before we get too much into Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk about Jeff's guy, who Jeff happens to be the lowest on here. So we're going to talk about Russell Wilson, who is our QB5 consensus. I'm at 4, Zach at 5, Will at 6, and Jeff at 7. I'm honestly surprised Jeff is the lowest on his quarterback. To me, you look at Russell Wilson, he had a down year last season, but that was due to the injuries, only playing 14 games, and it wasn't quite 100% when he came back a little too early. But you look at the seasons before that, 6-3, 9-1, 9-3, 3-8. And now he's in a position where he's going to run his offense. It's not going to be the stupid run-first offense that the Seahawks used to run. It's going to be put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands. He's got the running game, so they have to account for that. But he's got some great wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. Expecting big things from Courtland Sutton this season. And like I said, he's proven to me that he can do it. He throws the touchdowns. He also has the opportunity to run when he needs to. He, led the Seahawks in rushing that 1 year, so he can get a few on the ground. And he's very smart with the football. You don't see him making dumb throws very often. 6 interceptions last season. So, keep that number around there. Get into the 30, 40 touchdowns. He'll have probably, around 4,500 yards. And to me, I think that puts him in a position to be top 4 quarterback. I think he's going to elevate the Broncos into being. They are currently my pick to win the Super Bowl. I think they will start off slow. I think they'll be a wild card team. And as Zach said, let's ride.
Broncos country.
Zach.
I don't love Russ, but I'm like, please, man, don't say that anymore. If I hear another
Zach, you're muted.
And let's ride. Russ, I love you. Stop it, please.
Yeah, it said my mic was unplugged, but Zach, you're the next highest on Russ. So anything you want to add to that? Why you have him at 5?
Yeah, they say, they ask me, what the amount of work needs to be done, like what the number is. I triple that. So that's just another cringy Russell Wilson quote. I just thought I'd drop on you guys. No, I mean, if you look at it, I don't want to play this angle where Russell Wilson's finally on this great offense and disrespect DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Marshawn Lynch and all the other great guys he's got to play along with in the past. So if you figure it's essentially kind of the same cast of characters, you got just kind of big bruisers in the backfield. You got a big alpha wide receiver with Sutton, who's your Metcalf, and then I guess Jeudy, who's a really big Tyler Lockett. But I can see Russell Wilson finishing anywhere in this area. If you if you go down the list of quarterbacks who could finish as the number 1 quarterback that I feel very confident in, I would put Russell Wilson in that category.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the upside. The touchdowns, the rushing touchdowns could be there. The passing touchdowns are definitely going to be there. They got guys that are burners too. KJ Hamler could have a really big year. And even just the backs out of the backfield, Melvin Gordon, he can catch the ball. We could see how they utilize him. We'll go to you as you're the next highest. We'll leave Jeff for last, obviously hating on Russell Wilson over there. But Will.
Broncos country.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great year. By far. I will tell you, I'm high on Dulcich at tight end. He has weapons in this team that he hasn't had in a long time. And no offense to some of those Seahawk weapons, but he has a whole team around him this time. And there's no excuse for Russ. Oh, Russ better put up big numbers, man. What? Who?
That's what happens when you throw an interception in the Super Bowl.
In
All
the
of it
last
gets
couple
wiped
years,
away.
Russ hasn't had nothing.
Russ'
Yeah.
starting tight ends have been Will Dissly.
Russ does not have the type of defense that he had in previous years with the Seahawks right now, which were his best years. So I'm going to put that out there right now.
But Russ has a
maybe
much
not.
better defense than he had this past season.
Yeah.
And
And he has much better offensive weapons this year than he had last year.
Yeah, last year he realistically had DK and Tyler Lockett. And that's about where it ended for Russell Wilson.
And the offensive line was, Division
atrocious
from Idaho.
So yeah, he's got an upgraded offensive line and upgrade in the backfield. Maybe it's a parallel move with the wide receiver position if Jerry Jeudy can, perform the way he's supposed to. I see upgrades all around, and it's going to be Russ's system, working with the coach that wants to run what Russell Wilson wants to run. So we're going to see him put up some numbers. Jeff, you've been sitting there quietly trying to think of a response as to why you have Russell Wilson ranked so low. Let's hear it.
Heartbreak.
The only reason, the same thing with Josh Allen. Anytime a guy either gets a new offensive coordinator or goes to a whole new system and a whole new team, I always drop him down because I really don't know what to expect. Nobody really. We're all going on names with everybody in Denver. This whole thing could go ahead and go sideways. I'll tell you right now, he has a problem every time he plays. I know that when they had the talent. So I want to see what he's going to do against J.C. Jackson and that whole secondary back there when they have to go against those guys and try to match it, putting up points with the Chargers with Herbert back there. So that's my only thing. It's just it's not a slight against him. It's just I don't really know what to expect just yet. I want to see.
Russ broke Jeff's heart. It's just
a
slight.
Hurt.
It's like when your ex loses a lot of weight, so it's really good.
I can't
okay.
I can't ride with them just yet. I can't ride with the Broncos, man. But
what's the over/under on Jeff having an orange Russell Wilson jersey by week 9?
He definitely will. He definitely will. But yeah, I think the Broncos will start off a little slow. They got to get the feel for the system. But come the end of the season, going into the playoffs, they will be a team you won't want to face. And like I said, they are my current pick to win the Super Bowl. Just due to the fact I think they're going to come on real strong. They're in a tough division. That's why I have them making the wild card. But let's move on to a guy that Will has ranked in his top 3. Jeff and I both have him at 6 and Zach at 8. We're going to be talking about Joe Burrow as our consensus quarterback 6. Joe Burrow is coming off a great season last year with the emergence of Jamar Chase.
I'm with you, Joe.
Finished as the QB 7 last year. And that was, all in all, a great season for him. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 36 passing touchdowns. I think he can improve upon that a little bit with the new offensive line. But I don't see that high-end top 3 coming from him unless, something happens with his coach. Because Zach Taylor is what is holding Joe Burrow back. So if Zach Taylor goes somewhere and they get a coach that will, if they go out there and get themselves a coach like the Chargers have that's going to go for it, they're going to push the ball down the field.
Yeah, thanks for the Super Bowl appearance, Zach, but see you later.
Right. Yeah, well, he's holding Joe Burrow's stats back. He can be a great coach for football and not be a good coach for fantasy football. It's what you said with Justin Herbert. He gets all those extra opportunities. Joe Burrow gets none of those extra opportunities. They like to punt the ball on 4th and shorts. They don't want to take any unnecessary risks. So unless Zach Taylor changes his whole philosophy about how he runs this team, I just can't see that top 3 finish that Will's projecting. But Will, let us know why you think he's going to be a top 3 guy.
I think he's the quarterback is on the rise. I think another year in the same system. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The coaching's a little conservative, but I think they're going to open it up more this year. I think there's no reason not to. Their schedule.
Well, they just made it to the Super Bowl without. So why would they?
There's a team right now that I think feels completely disrespected. And look, ego, NFL's a little bit of this is ego. Maybe a lot of it's ego. I think the Bengals feel like they have a lot to prove. I don't think anyone gave them any respect. And I don't think anyone has the. I don't know if I've seen anyone pick them going back to the Super Bowl.
No, it's because they have a clown at head coach.
Oh, I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he's a safer bet to have a better year than some of the other guys like Lamar. I like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson on physical talent is more than Burrow's, but in that team right now, I'm not sure. I think, if you look at teams that are a safe bet with good talent around the quarterback, how do you not put Cincinnati in the top 5?
Are you worried about the Super Bowl loss slump that we've seen from every other team?
I'm not, because I think honestly, I think fans were let down that the Bengals made the Super Bowl. I don't think that's the Super Bowl anybody expected. I think everybody's kind of like, the Bengals, they've lost all those Super Bowls. They're not going to be able to do this again, And
then they lost another one.
Yeah, but that game was way closer than people thought it should have been. And so I think the Bengals get better. And I think if I look at his talent around him and who can he stay healthy? Does he have good talent around him? And will they be in position to put points up and win games? Yeah. So, I get it's high, but I think he's less risk than some of the other guys that we've been talking about.
Well, a very important piece of information here is that I have Joe Burrow in our Dynasty Startup League that we just started, and I will be sending Will some offers after the show because he needs a quarterback. So I will be
in that league.
Yeah, I have all the quarterbacks, so I can make my move. I have a few starting quarterbacks, so maybe I send Joe Burrow Will's way to build up.
Wilson right back. You can have Zach Wilson right back.
Hey, Zach and Jeff, what do you guys want to add to the Joe Burrow conversation? Jeff, you can go first since you have him at 6 like me.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons is I'm probably going to put money on. I don't even think the Bengals are going to win the AFC North. I honestly think that he's going to struggle this year. Not struggle, but struggle for where everybody is putting him. People tend to forget he's in a conference or in that division that has
one good team,
2 defenses and one really good defense. So, I think he's going to be brought down a little bit to the middle of the pack this year. I'm looking at the Steelers defense. I'm looking at the Browns defense. I'm looking at the Ravens defense. He has to face these guys, man. And I think this year, they've prepared the whole they know what to expect now with Jamar Chase. I think they match up with whatever Zach Taylor's going to be out. And I think they don't win the AFC.
I'm just confused on Jeff's take here.
I gotta jump in here real quick.
When
they play the Steelers with Trubisky at quarterback, the average starting field position for the Bengals is going to be the Pittsburgh 20. When they play,
is Jeff for or against Joe Burrow?
I don't understand. Like, there's nobody. Watson's not playing this year, so Jacoby Brissett. I don't. And the Bengals have a good defense. I don't understand that logic at all.
That was great.
I'm looking at the possibility of him actually even getting hurt. He's still facing some tough defensive fronts.
Jeff, you have Lamar Jackson at 3. You can't complain about Joe Burrow getting hurt.
I'm only laughing because I have him ranked lower.
Yeah,
so I agree with you, Jeff.
Zach's like, I agree with everything you're saying. How can you say all this and have him ranked at 6?
Jackson has more time in that division. I'm telling you, I think this year that is one of all 3 of those teams. Their main thing is going to be stopping Joe Burrow this year, and I think that they're going to be more successful this year. Mark my words, than they were last year. I want to see it's put it like this. It's like one of those coaches that comes up. You have that one good year, but are you able to replicate it? I don't think Zach
Nope.
Taylor is a guy
Zach
that's
Taylor.
going to be able to do it.
Nope,
gone.
he cannot. Get him out of here. Honestly, get him out of
Get
here.
him out. Preseason. Get rid of his ass. We don't want him anymore.
Yeah, I need a coach that's going to give me some fantasy points. Zach, so Jeff made all your arguments for you. Anything you want to add in there?
That was funny because I was like, yeah, I totally agree. I think what he did last year was like really the absolute ceiling. It seems just based on the efficiency, it was like a ton of like 80-yard plays to Jamar Chase. But let's not also forget he got sacked like 8 million times too. So maybe we want to like kind of even that out a little bit. So maybe he has 10 more attempts to throw 10 more touchdowns in theory, right? And if that's the case, he certainly is going to jump up into that top 3 tier, but that's 10 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's a lot to ask for a quarterback. But if we're so high on Jamar Chase and the Bengals are one of those few teams that has 2 potentially top 15 wide receivers, how can you say we believe that will happen if the person who has to support those 2 wide receivers finishes? So I guess I'm also doing the same thing that Jeff did. I'm also not making my case. I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying Joe Burrow's better than what I have him ranked.
You're literally doing because the way you're talking, he finished.
But I think our reason is he's a tough guy to rank and he's a tough guy to kind of gauge for the season, because I can see both scenarios happen. Like Jeff said, I can see that AFC North being a gauntlet again, and I can also see him, taking the Bengals deep into the playoffs again. So it's just a lot of outcomes.
So he finished 7 last year, and you're saying he can do a little bit better than 7. So I'm pretty sure that's exactly where Jeff and I have him ranked at 6.
Yep.
Just throwing that out there, but let's move on to quarterback 7 here. This is a guy who I am the highest on. I don't think that there's any questions about who likes him the most for fantasy football, not only this season, but the past season when this guy finished as the QB3. We're talking about my guy, Tom Brady. He is currently our consensus number 7. I have him ranked at 5. Zach and Will have him at 7. And Jeff has him all the way down at 9. So since Jeff has him at 9, he'll probably make all the arguments about why he's so good and should be much higher. But I'm going to start here. Coming off the QB3 finish, 5,300 yards, 43 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So, that QB sneak, always guarantee him a couple rushing touchdowns on the season. He is 45. He retired and came back. But he has added some talent at the wide receiver position. With the loss of Gronk, they also brought in Kyle Rudolph. But you give Tom Brady the wide receiving core of Mike Evans. Chris Godwin will be back by at least week 4. You add in Russell Gage, who we all like. You add in Julio Jones, who may not be the Julio Jones of old, but Julio Jones is still a pretty good wide receiver. He's not going to have all the pressure on him. He doesn't have to be on the field all the time, and that should help him stay healthy. He'll play that Antonio Brown type role where he's only on the field 50% of the time, but when he's on the field, he's going to get some targets. I think he can still make some guys miss. You give Tom Brady all these weapons, a guy we've seen do it forever. Will thinks he's going to fall off every year, but Tom Brady will be back in the top 5 again this season. And I think he's going to go at 5 exactly. Zach, what are your thoughts on Tom Brady this year?
We are in uncharted territories when we're talking about ranking a 45-year-old human playing football. So not much evidence or data to really reflect on, except for the fact that he's the GOAT. What else is to say about Tom Brady, right? If you want to just go into the actual offense, I think they just lost like multiple or was it Jensen went down and then another lineman went down or something like that. So
yeah, their backup center went down, but he's okay. It was just cramps.
All right, well that's good. Get that man some.
It's okay. JC Treader is going to sign with the Bucks in a couple weeks for $1 million, and
Tom will get him out of. He'll get him out of. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I guess if you're worried about Godwin not being ready, which somehow it appears he will be, but it's a pretty crazy wide receiver core. So.
And then with Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, even guys that we've seen
I
They'll
think he's
put
one of
up
the
some
last
numbers.
quarterbacks that could finish easily, as he's one of the only pocket passing quarterbacks truly, I think, that has the ability to finish at one.
Absolutely. Those weapons really do it for him. Will, anything you want to add to the Tom Brady discussion before we move on to the apparent Tom Brady hater and Jeff?
Honestly, I would have put him lower, but everybody below him's more of a question mark to me. So I think he's a boomer bust. He could either be top 5, or this could be the year the wheels come off. And to all you fantasy players out there, good luck. It is a boomer bust pick. Make sure you're getting value when you pick him to represent that. Because
current ADP and sleeper is quarterback outside the top 10 quarterbacks. So
okay, it's worth
you
it.
get
It's
Tom
worth
Brady outside the top 10 like you could last year, and he will, like you say, he's a boom bust guy.
Right.
But I think the odds of him booming are a lot higher than the odds of him busting. So let's move over to Jeff, who is just still apparently broken up about the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots and Tom Brady, having him ranked all the way down at 9. Jeff, what's your problem with Tom Brady?
No problem. I've just been listening to Will all this time. He's
Well,
that's not a great way to start your argument.
I've listened to Will, but yet I still can't put him outside the top 10. Put it like that. No, my thing is, just wondering, not even his health, just wondering about the health of the receivers. Mike Evans is already dealing with some hamstring issues. It seems like you don't know what's up with Godwin. Really don't know, although you've heard good things about Julio Jones. Gronk
Wearing
is not
number
there.
85.
Terrible. Cringe.
So you obviously don't trust what's his name, Otten or Cotton, whatever the hell is it when
Cade Otten.
Yeah, you don't trust Cam Brake. That was a pretty good tight end. You bring in Kyle Rudolph. Them continuing to bring in all these guys. Some people say, well, that's the Tampa Bay way lately, what they're doing for Tom. I just think there could be some issues with those receivers and not having those guys. I do like Scotty Miller. They even still have Parham in there that may end up trotting out there as well at some point. But they're just not guys I think that he will be used to exploding with like he did the last couple of years. If Mike Evans happens to get hurt and Godwin's not ready. So that's why I just kind of dialed things down. He's still in the top 10. That's the
and a name we didn't even bring up when talking about Tom Brady is who could be his number 2 target on the season, Leonard Fournette. He's good for almost 100 targets out of the backfield this season if he stays healthy. So that's another thing. Even if Tom Brady, he can't get a ball downfield, he's going to just toss it to Leonard Fournette, and Leonard Fournette's going to eat. So let's move on to our number 8. Zach has this guy at 6. I'm at 7. Jeff's at 8. And Will's at 9. So we're all fairly close there, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're talking about Mr. No-Show in the second half of the season, Kyler Murray. Zach and I had him a lot higher previously when we kind of didn't know what was happening with his contract situation. And I just can't deal with this whole homework clause and leadership issues. And I've been the known Kyler Murray hater. I don't like him as a football quarterback in the NFL. He will put up numbers for fantasy, though. That's why I have him at 7. Finished last season as the QB 10, but missed a couple of games due to injury. And like I said, he always falls off come the end of the season, so you can ride him to your playoffs. But as soon as the playoffs come, you should probably have another guy on your roster because you will not win a fantasy football championship with Kyler Murray starting in week 16 or 17. That's just not going to happen. To me, he's got good weapons. They'd added Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore's there, Zach Ertz, James Conner, Darrell Williams out of the backfield as well. He gets DeAndre Hopkins back after week 6. So maybe this is the year that he turns it on the second half of the season because DeAndre Hopkins is back. I doubt it because Cliff Kingsbury is still his head coach, and he apparently can't coach come the second half of the season either. So between the two of them, they really are a great pair. They probably just sit up, play some COD, and I'm really sure that's all they do come the end of the season. But yeah, I think he's a great fantasy quarterback. He's our consensus rank 8. Zach, you're the highest on him. What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray?
My thoughts on Kyler Murray is that I think it's gone a little too far, the banter towards Kyler. Let's not forget this is still a Heisman Trophy winner, number 1 overall draft pick, a draft pick in the Major
Baker
League
Mayfield?
Baseball. A lot of guys.
Heisman Trophy winner, number 1 overall pick.
Well, I mean, if we're going down that list of those 2 accolades, and yes, we're going to stumble across, a few bums along
the Baker
way.
Mayfields and Kyler Murray's along the way. Yeah, I agree.
But this is just another one of those things where I'm looking at, as somebody who I had Kyler in 2020, and I did win that season. I had him. I only remember but he was a value then, not so much that he is to the point now. But still, you got to look at it. The difference without DeAndre Hopkins it's evident, right? When he's not on the field, Kyler Murray's just a different player. Whatever the excuse you want to make about the second half meltdown, whether it's just defenses catching on to Cliff's basic offense,
Cliff just gives up.
Whether it's Kyler just fizzling out. I mean, it could be any of those options. Whether it's Call of Duty, if you're making content and you're saying that Kyler Murray's second half decline is due to a video game, I don't think you're making very educated guesses on that one. But I'm just going to say Kyler Murray is also one of those quarterbacks who's just simply incredible on the football field when he's healthy and at his peak. And we draft players for what their peaks are, not for what the silly off shenanigans things that, go on in their life. So I think if you're looking at pure talent, we all love Marquise Brown from what we talked about earlier. Hollywood Brown is a big,
except for Jeff.
Jeff doesn't like Hollywood Brown, I guess. No, but I don't know. I just feel like he might be one of the best values at quarterback this year because of all this stuff going on in the offseason. I think in redraft, you're going to be able to get him in a spot where he's easily going to return on his ADP as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, so I said all those bad things about him, but I still am the second highest. I have him at 7. Another thing that does worry me as I keep trashing Kyler Murray, even though I have him as my QB 7, is his highest passing touchdowns in his season is 26. And I think that's a number that's got to come up. He had 11 rushing touchdowns that year as well. So that's why he finished the top 3 quarterback that year. But he's got to bring that passing number up. He can't have 26 touchdowns and expect to, continue to put up these kind of numbers, especially as we said, rushing quarterbacks. He's been great in the rushing game, but they have to learn how to evolve. So we got to see that, and Cliff Kingsbury needs to go before I can really trust Kyler Murray. Jeff, you're next. You have him at 8. Anything you want to add?
Yeah. And that's a little bit higher than, I really think about putting him, because now I'm rethinking it. I was like, damn, I left Dak out only because they're talking about running the ball a lot more this season, which I don't believe they're going to do. But anyway, he's got the freshest legs. He is like a mouse trying to catch it out there. Just, scurries everywhere. But the problem with that whole...
He's about the size of a mouse, too.
Yeah. Their whole issue when it gets to that second half is because the best ability is availability. They always go through a whole different wide receiver core because guys are always hurt.
It's Cliff Kingsbury's fault. Don't blame the wide receivers.
Hopkins is hurt. Kirk was hurt. I mean, everybody was hurt in that offense, and I think they're going to continue to be that way. You've got a bunch of wide receivers where guys are usually missing a few games. We already know Hopkins is missing 6. He's not going to have his
steroids. No steroids for him this year.
They're fragile. Those guys they're fragile, except for Rondale Moore, which we haven't really seen them have a rapport with one another. So that's my issue with Murray. He's going to have to do it with his legs because his receivers are always hurt. And I'm just hoping James Conner can stay together because after that, they're looking at Eno Benjamin, which Zach stole which I was going to go ahead and pick up. And I saw that he picked him up already off the waiver wires. But anyway, that's my issue with Kyler Murray, and that's why he's a little bit lower. He could boom if his receivers are healthy, but I doubt that's going to happen.
So Jeff and I have just trashed one of our top 10 quarterbacks. Will, would you like to continue to do so?
I didn't want to put him in my top 10, but we're talking fantasy top 10, and I think Arizona's an old team. I think their defense is going to be horrible. I honestly believe that they're going to be trying to score as many points as they can, and that's the only reason he's in the top 10. If you were asking me to rank the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, he would be nowhere near it. Because that contract with that language in there about you need to study, no, that is a huge red flag. Not only did they put it in the contract, they leaked it because they were trying to light a fire under him. This isn't college football. You can't just run around with 100 and some other teams and the talent is spread out. Those linebackers are just as fast as you, Kyler. They'll catch you. You better be ready to play mentally. You have too much talent to be who he is right now. And those wide receivers are old. The defense is old. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona is one of the first teams to fire their coaches because this has a train wreck written all over it, if you're asking me. But I still think he's going to score points because what other option does Arizona have besides Kyler Murray?
Yeah, that's true. We'll see. So three of us just trashed on Kyler Murray for our entire talking points. But yet he's still our consensus quarterback 8. The crazy thing to me is that he signed a quarterback or the contract with that language in it. It's obviously a problem. Otherwise, his agent and him would have just thrown that contract out the door. So I don't know. We'll see how that all comes in. Next is a guy who I really wanted to put in my top 10. I just couldn't make it happen. I have him at 11, but our consensus 9 is Aaron Rodgers. Jeff has him all the way at 5. Will at 8. Zach and he did not quite make the cut. Aaron Rodgers is going to have another good season. But Davante Adams is gone. His touchdowns dropped last year from 48 to 37. And they could probably drop some more without Davante Adams there. Robert Tunyon's not healthy yet. Romeo Doubs could, emerge. Christian Watson's not practicing yet. Sammy Watkins is going to have a 3-touchdown week 1, and then we'll never hear his name called again. And Allen Lazard, he'll probably have, close to 10 touchdowns, but that'll be a third of Aaron Rodgers' touchdowns this season. So I think he's going to be still a good quarterback. Just couldn't quite fit him into my top 10. Jeff, you have him at 5. Let's hear it.
He's Aaron Rodgers. He never seems to really disappoint. And he has been catching a lot of flack, a lot of slander. He's been really sliding in drafts, So, and it's that one thing, Davante Adams being gone. He always finds another receiver. I mean, it's been like that forever. I can't remember Donald Driver, James Jones, whoever it is. Every time he loses
Jordy Nelson.
number 1.
Yeah, so these to me are all great wide receivers. But they don't have that.
They were not. They normally sat there in the offense for a year and were not great. Jordy Nelson, I think it was like 2 years before he actually became a focal point of that offense. And that's what they do. And that's what I just trust. If it's not Dobbs, possibly somebody's going to come around and going to be like, okay, he's got a connection with these guys. He finds a way. And that's why, I really think he's got a lot around him. Again, we may not know who the guy is, but to me, I believe that he's going to find, if not one, he's going to find a couple of guys that he's able to get that ball to. Matter of fact, the receiver, the tight end that stepped in, was it Degura or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
He did not have a matter of fact, he did a little bit better than Tanyan did the last couple of games. So, I'm not thinking that he's going to miss Tanyan as much as a lot of people think. He finds guys, and that's the whole thing. I think they're going to move Aaron Jones around. They're going to have probably Aaron Jones and Dylan in the backfield. I'm starting to trust a little bit more is LaFleur. I think he knows what he's doing with that offense. And I think even though Hackett's gone, I think LaFleur is going to put more of his fingerprints on there. Him and Aaron probably got together. I think he's going to surprise people more this year. I just don't count that dude out.
So Jeff has Aaron Rodgers ranked higher than Russell Wilson. So let's just throw that out there. A guy with all the talent around him, a guy that's been, as consistent as Aaron Rodgers over the past few years, and a guy who
let me say this one thing
in Aaron Rodgers' system.
I noticed last year that when he was scrambling around in the pocket, he's slower. Guys started to figure out his moves. He waited too long to pass the ball. And I think that's going to be that's an issue with him. I started to understand that and see that. I want to see if that changes as well. I don't know. That same little run around move, he was running right into Aaron Donald. He was running right into a lot of guys because he was trying to go ahead and do the same things that he normally does, waiting for somebody to get open. So I'm gonna see if that happens this year.
All right, Will, we're talking about let's get back to Aaron Rodgers. Will, you have Aaron Rodgers at 8, and you're a Vikings fan.
Yeah, it's fantasy football, and he's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to put up points. And he's going to make points happen some way or the other, even if he's flipping it to the running backs. I mean, honestly, it'll be interesting to me. The most interesting tell is, do the running backs' share of receptions go way up this year? Because I'm not sure about these wide receivers. And yeah, he'll find somebody. You still got to be able to separate. You still got to be able to be in position to get to the ball. And there's nobody in that current wide receiver room that scares me as an NFC North guy. Who? Lazard? I like Lazard. I think Lazard's going to end up being the number 1, but he's not Devontae Adams. So the question is where do those passes go? And do they become a more running team and more of a check down team, tied in and running back? And that might be interesting for everybody in fantasy, but he's still going to put up his numbers unless he gets hurt. So, and then who else? Who are you going to put in front of him? Who the heck do I put in front of Aaron Rodgers in a top 10 for fantasy? Everybody else is unproven. Like Jeff said, Dak, they're going to run the ball. They're saying they're going to Jalen Hurts. No, I'm not putting Jalen Hurts from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so yeah, he's the 8th guy standing.
Zach, what do you have to say about Aaron Rodgers? He did not make your top 10, but I know he's just outside. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, he's number 11 for me, and it's only because Trey Lance bumped him out of the 10 spot. But I see nothing wrong with having him at 8 or 7 or 5. He's just incredible. He's in the last 3 years, he's had as many interceptions as Patrick Mahomes had just last year, like with 13. So he's super efficient. This team wins 13 games every single season, and then collapse in the playoff. But at the same time, chicken or the egg is Aaron Rodgers at this point of his career, right? We talked about him being able to find somebody else throughout his career. But when you get to this stage, is he another Tom Brady? Can he really continue to do this at that age for that long? Like, can we really see him? I think he has another great season and is easily a top 10 quarterback. But I kind of want to get ahead of the curve. I want to say this might be the year Aaron Rodgers kind of finishes outside the top 10 for the first time. And it's basically off the loss of just those crazy touchdown connections that he had with Devontae Adams.
Yeah, so for me, you brought up, can Aaron Rodgers do what Tom Brady's been doing? And to me, the huge difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers thinks he can do everything by himself. Tom Brady understands the importance of having great weapons around him, and that's why he went to Tampa, and that's what he's built in that offense. Aaron Rodgers had said, I don't need anyone. Give me the most mediocre players you can find, and I'll be fine. Yeah, we can pretty much go play for Aaron Rodgers, and he would be okay.
Yeah.
So that's just my worry between him and Brady. But let's move on to our consensus number 10, and then we'll talk about a couple guys quickly who didn't quite make our consensus 10, but made our individual top 10s. Zach has Hurts at 9, Jeff at 10. Will and I, he did not make our top 10. Jalen Hurts coming off the QB9 finish 3,100 yards, only 16 passing touchdowns. That's a huge worry.
Yeah.
But he had 139 rush attempts for 784 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's going to have to keep those numbers at par with that, if not higher, if he wants to continue going, and he's got to work on involving his passing game. The reason he's not in my top 10 is because, as apparently for a lot of these guys, I don't like his coach. Nick Sirianni is not a good NFL coach, in my opinion, and I don't trust him to make the right calls when the team needs it. You saw them get absolutely obliterated in the playoffs last year because he decided, let's bench our starters because we're that good. That game could have helped them and, could have given them a better chance. That 16 touchdown to 9 interception ratio, not great. He's going to have to improve on that. They brought in A.J. Brown. He seems super happy about that, but I think that move puts even more pressure on Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't evolve his game as a passer, this could be his last year as a starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't be surprised if they move on from him next year. So there's just a lot that can go wrong. He's got the rushing upside. I know that's why everyone loves him. And you see him in a lot of, he's going in the 6th round in a lot of leagues from what I've seen. Zach, you're the highest. You have him at 9. What do you like about Jalen Hurts?
Stop me if you've heard this before. Young quarterback with rushing ability gets a superstar wide receiver traded to his team and hopefully helps him improve his passing ability. Josh Allen.
Tua.
Tua. Right. Tua, yeah. Well, he's next. Like Tua and Jalen and Hurts are kind of in the same category. Their team actually did something. You make up for the Jalen Reagor disaster, and the JJ Arcega-Whiteside disaster, and you get Devonta Smith and AJ Brown together, which I think is I don't know. It just feels like it's not as hyped as maybe it could be. Like, I don't know why we're not as into it. It just seems like AJ Brown's a superstar. Devonta Smith set the record for what receiving yards or receptions for the Eagles, the rookies.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, that's with Jalen Hurts barely throwing the ball. So I think the ceiling that's left on the field for this team is massive. And I think when you start getting into this area of guys, you start getting into the Dak Prescotts, the Matt Staffords, you start getting there. I don't know if they present the crazy upside Jalen Hurts could have this season. All he has to do is just be a mediocre passer. Like, his passing stats last year were horrendous. They weren't just they were decent.
They were on a Lamar Jackson level,
right.
Terrible.
It was so bad, but then he became
Jackson.
one of 3 players to ever rush for 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. So the other 2 were Kyler Murray and Cam Newton, who have obviously been 2 great fantasy quarterbacks with rushing abilities. So if you figure in, the one thing with talent is once you prove you can do it, you deserve to have that kind of edge going into the next season, because it's why can't he do it again? He's already proven it on the field. So now if he can just take a superstar wide receiver with AJ Brown and just elevate the game, and Devonta Smith matures, I mean, you gotta like the outcome for the Eagles this season.
Yeah, I think there is a massive ceiling for him. And if the Eagles had shown me they believed in him, I'd probably believe in him a little bit more. But the team hasn't really made that commitment to him yet. And like I said, with all the rumors, people were talking about them drafting another guy this year, talking about them drafting another guy next year. There's just that extremely low floor that we could see. Gardner Minshew could end up starting come mid-season if Jalen Hurts isn't producing the passing numbers that the Eagles are looking for. It's not you looking at it that, Jeff, but if Jalen Hurts doesn't improve his passing game, Gardner Minshew played great for them last season, and he's a good quarterback. Jalen Hurts to me is a much better quarterback. I would rather have Jalen Hurts on the Panthers as opposed to our quarterback options. But to me, the Eagles are a terrible organization. They're run by one of the worst GMs in the league. I don't trust their coach. Their coach and their GM, to me, haven't proven that they trust their quarterback. Too many things that can go wrong. I'm out on him in Dynasty for the most part, for sure. Just because I can see so many different scenarios where he's not the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles next season. If he hits, he's going to be a great quarterback for a while. But if he doesn't show out early this season, I'm nervous for what that means for the rest of his career with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, Jeff, take it away. What do you think about Jalen Hurts? He did crack your top 10.
I personally wanted the Steelers to draft him in the second round when he came out. I was very pissed that the Eagles had actually drafted him because he reminds me he's that type of Big Ben type game. He's going to run. He's going to score. And if you give him some competent receivers, he might have a decent, passing game. He came in with Devonta Smith. You got a new coach. He's coming into a whole new system. You had Dallas Goedert that actually ended up getting hurt. You had old man Zach Ertz there. Things were just really – I mean, the Eagles aren't known for their wide receivers, yet this guy still found a way to win. Exactly. Howie Roseman just tearing everything up by drafting Rager, and he finally did well with Devonta Smith. So that's what I'm saying. With him now having A.J. Brown, and you got another solid receiver next to him with Devonta Smith and Goedert being back, I think why wouldn't he have a decent year? I mean, his passing attack was decent enough in college, both at Alabama and at Oklahoma. So that the guy can actually throw the ball. So, I just think this is going to be the season where he's able to put all of that together, Sirianni or not. I think they've given him enough weapons now to go ahead and prove what he can do. And I think this year he's going to prove it. He's young, he's strong. They like to run the ball. And now he's got a reason to pass as well. So I think they're going to come.
He was injured last year too.
That's right.
He was battling the ankle injury from week 8 on or something like that, maybe mid-season on, and that's when his kind of stats just took a kind of a nosedive, and still finished as the QB9.
Yeah.
So,
another thing that I would bring up here is the Eagles averaged over 26 points per game this season. I don't see a way where they improve that number very much. And as I said, Jalen Hurts, he scored 16 passing touchdowns, won a game, and 10 rushing touchdowns.
10, yeah. So happy quarterback double-digit rusher.
But their number one running back, it was going to be their number one running back again this season, had 0 rushing touchdowns last year, and there's no way that's happening again. So who's that going to come off of? Probably Jalen Hurts' rushing touchdowns. Another reason why, could do a little worse. Will, you don't have him in your top 10. Just give some quick words before we move on to a couple other guys before we close out the show.
It's Jalen Hurts. I mean, what more is there to say? I'm not sure A.J. Brown can stay healthy all season. Devonta Smith is already hurt. There's another team that's kind of getting a little bit long in the tooth at key positions too, their age. Mm-hmm. And look, the NFC East isn't going to be a rollover division this year. It'll be a little bit better. Their schedule's so. I mean, we'll see. Like Zach said, 16 touchdowns to 9 interceptions.
I mean, rollover. This is still the easiest division in the league to win.
Yeah, that doesn't mean the team we're talking about is going to win that division.
Well, the Giants are pushover easy.
Yeah, but those rivalry games,
Carson Wentz.
Those rivalry games, the Giants aren't just going to roll over and lose 2 games. I mean, we forget division rivalry, and then I look at the rest of his schedule, and what scares me a little bit about Jalen is the end of the year when you need him. I mean, at the Bears, at the Cowboys, and then the home for the Saints. And I know we're talking about performance versus where I would draft him. I don't like those last 3 weeks when I need this guy to step up and give me some really good points. So that's enough to scare me off him right there, much less do I think he has the ability to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He's probably top 15 just because of his legs. But if you guys were saying earlier, once a quarterback starts getting hurt, a running quarterback, it's hard. Mm-hmm. Those defenders are going to play on his legs. They're going to go after him. They're going to try to keep him in that pocket. You're going to show me you're going to beat me throwing the ball.
Yeah, these rushing quarterbacks aren't built like the running backs, and that's their problem. They're not 250 pounds with all the muscle in the world. So that is the big issue. Now we have 4 more guys to talk about and made our individual top 10s. Unfortunately, Jeff has no one left to talk about, so he can just chime in on a couple of these guys.
Wow.
So Jeff
so we all agree with Jeff the most? Is that what?
Yes, Jeff was in on each of our top 10 guys. He gave me a couple honorable mentions with his list, and a couple of these guys are going to be talked about. First, a guy who I had ranked at 9, Derek Carr, I think can sneak into the top 10 this year. Finished as the QB 14 2 years ago, QB 13 last year, and you give him the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. Darren Waller is going to be healthy going into this season.
Vikings traded Jefferson?
I think Devontae Adams is a little bit better wide receiver than Justin Jefferson.
We're going to find out this year.
Not anymore.
I think he is. So to me, you give a guy who has that college connection. They've been balling out in practice so far. But like I said, he finished at the QB 13, and he scored 23 passing touchdowns. I know Zach has talked before about the fact that his career high was 32 passing touchdowns. So even if you get him back, because this is by far the best wide receiver he's ever had, you get him back to that 32 number, cut down on a couple of the interceptions, and that's going to put him probably higher than the 9 that I have him at right now. So I think Derek Carr is a guy that people are definitely sleeping on. I think he's going to be inconsistent. Do I think he's a guy I would want to start week in, week out? Absolutely not. I just think when it comes to the end of the season, don't be surprised when Derek Carr finishes within the top 10. Anything you guys want to add to that conversation, or can we just move on? Talk about a couple of the other guys. Will, you're next. Who did you have in the number 10 position?
Look, Kirk Cousins has been hovering 11 or 12. I just think that offense, they're going to throw the ball. His numbers are going to go up. It's not going to be Mike Zimmer. Like we talk about Taylor with the Bengals. His numbers are going to go up. He's always hovering around the 10. So, yeah, I think he gets to the 10 spot this year. He probably has a couple more touchdown passes, and he might even run for a touchdown, depending on how that offense is going. And that's saying a lot. For Kirk Cousins to run for a touchdown, that's saying a lot.
Yeah,
like that.
Is.
I like that.
I like that.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean he's got the second or the third best wide receiver, I guess, in the NFL. And Justin
KJ
Jefferson.
Yeah, Adam Thielen.
Right.
There you go, Adam Thielen. Yeah, that's the guy. But Zach, you have a guy who I think has the highest upside of any of these guys we're talking about right now. Go ahead and introduce a guy you talked about a little bit earlier. Brought him up as your number 10.
Yeah, it's Tua Trey Lance. It's Trey Lance. It's Trey time. Trey way.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a world where Jimmy Garoppolo might be a quarterback somehow for the 49ers, but let's just say that's not the case. And Trey Lance is given the starting job week 1 with Debo happy, incentivized, with George Kittle at least healthy for the moment. Brandon Ayuk already has a rapport with Lance. Trey Sermon has been making headlines. He came back from the dead and has been making headlines. So with that being said, you have great head coach, weapons. Trey Lance's rushing ability is up there with the best in the NFL. If you just simply stat out what he did in the few games he started last year, I'm pretty sure he'd be like the number 1 quarterback. So the upside is there, weapons are there, and the age. So it's
yeah. And as you said, he's got the coach. Unlike some of these other guys that we've talked about, where I clearly don't like their coach, I do like Kyle Shanahan, and he's going to be great for Trey Lance, and he's probably the second best rushing quarterback, just pure rushing ability out of all the quarterbacks behind Lamar Jackson right now. So I definitely like that pick. And Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan have both kind of come out and said that they're done. They're just waiting on someone to offer them something for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, at this point. Just anything.
Ham
really.
sandwich.
Yeah, that's really all they'll need to get rid of him.
Trade him for a washer and dryer.
And finally, we'll talk about one last guy. a guy who I have at 10 that I was kind of surprised wasn't on Zach or Jeff's list. I knew he wasn't going to be on Will's list because Will's a biased Vikings fan, but guy who finished as the quarterback 5 last season, and he held Cooper Kupp to be the wide receiver 1. I think Matt Stafford is going to finish in the top 10 again this year. He's been dealing with the elbow injury last season, the season before. Tendonitis, you can deal with the pain. He's been taking stuff, had his injections.
Stay far away. Stay far away. They keep talking baseball injury. They have said it multiple times now. This is something usually a baseball pitcher gets. I don't want.
Because the way he throws the ball.
Yep, I don't want anyone near him.
He finished as the QB5 last year. You know, they're going to manage that, and he had 17 interceptions. That was his second highest throughout his entire career. I think that number comes down. You bring in a guy who I'm extremely high on, as we all know, Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson is the number 1 wide receiver in this league. Pair him with Cooper Kupp. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be back with the Rams at some point. That's just waiting for him to get healthy before they announce the signing, but it's going to happen. With Sean McVay as his head coach, you know, Cam Akers is back healthy. Tyler Higbee is just kind of there, you know. Not really super excited about Tyler Higbee, but he's there. Stafford's going to throw the ball a lot. He always has, always will. Every year he's been healthy, he's had over 500 pass attempts. No reason that's not going to happen. Some years he's been as high as 700 pass attempts. Last year he had 601. So, you know, 4,800 yards last season. The touchdowns can drop. The interceptions, I think, will drop. And you have 4,800 yards. Say your touchdowns drop to 35, but your interceptions drop a few, and you're going to be a top 10 quarterback. So unless this elbow injury really does come back and ruin his career, which I don't think it will, I think he'll be fine. But Will, being the biased Vikings fan he is, obviously, doesn't like Matt Stafford.
So weird. Yeah,
it's not that I don't like him. I just don't think it's all that. I mean, we'll see.
But he doesn't have to be good. That's my point at this point. He's just going to get the guys the ball.
Though.
He can. I think he will. I dealt with some elbow injuries when I played. You know, it's just pain. That's all it is. It's just pain. Just play through the pain.
Were you throwing the ball?
I was going to say, were you the quarterback?
Yeah. I was the quarterback. Just throwing the ball. It's just pain. It's just pain. You can play through the pain. I'm telling you, you can play through
35. Ow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Just throw the ball and just don't. No, it's fine. It's fine. He, you know, being an NFL quarterback, he's got the best painkillers at his disposal.
He's proven that through his career.
He plays through every injury he has. Like, he's gonna play and he's gonna put up numbers. He's not gonna be as good as he was last year. You know, older quarterbacks tend to get worse as unless you're Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. You tend to get worse as you get older. So I think he will get a little worse, but I don't see him falling off the face of the earth and not finishing within this top 10. But that rounds out our top 10 quarterbacks episode. We ran a little over time, but that's okay. We're going to be doing running backs next week and followed up with the wide receivers as we head into the NFL season. Get ready for all your fantasy football drafts. You're going to know exactly who you want to target with your first picks in the draft, and you're going to know exactly which NFL coaches I do not like. We'll hear a lot more about those next week. I promise you that.
Was this the first show we didn't talk about Cordell Patterson?
Yep. Yes, it was. Not anymore. Not anymore. Will just had to bring him up. I guess no one really thought of him as being a quarterback, and Marcus Mariota really doesn't deserve his name to be mentioned on this show either. So we'll just ignore the fact that Will brought that up. Maybe we'll cut that out of the show when we post it for you guys.
There you go.
But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was informational. The back and forth with our top 10 guys. And, you know, make sure you tune in again next week. Running back, top 10s. There will be some more controversy. You know, some more guys in Will's division that he obviously doesn't like. And, you know, maybe Jeff will start hating on some more ex-Seahawks. Who knows? Tune in next week to find out. And thank you guys both all for joining. See you again next week.
Yes, sir.
See you guys.
Peace.